And we're back. I am now joined by Chris Pakula. Chris, that was an awkward game 3. Man, your deck just did not cooperate.
Yeah, I mean, I have not played this deck enough, and I have not really done any real math. Like, I haven't put a lot of work into figuring out how to mulligan with this deck.
Okay.
And it's obviously pretty difficult because, I mean, one of the reasons why this deck makes strange decisions, like not playing Black Lotus, is that I think a lot of things that people would think is a good combination of cards, you can just lock yourself out of the game so easily. So you can't mulligan quite as aggressively as you want because it's too easy to get a hand where you can't play your own spells. Like,
So are you thinking maybe the mulligan to 7 was a mistake, or the mulligan to 6, or what?
Well, game 2, mulliganing on the draw is always in that matchup is extremely challenging. So game 2, I wasn't even sure if I should mulligan that opener. It's just that the Chalice of the Voids and Null Rods are really tough on the draw.
Sure.
This game, I don't think I could keep the first hand against his deck because his 3 mana spells are so powerful against me that it's really hard to keep a draw where most likely he's going to be able to resolve his first 3 mana spell unmolested.
Mm-hmm.
But then the mulligan to 6, I mean, I'm going to be able to play 2 Moxes and a Chalice. I have no backup, but any mulligan to 5 is just too much danger of not being able to cast my spells. I basically kept the hand where if I top deck anything.
Yeah.
I only drew 1 action spell for the first, 5 or 6 turns, and that was it. So not even a hand land.
It seemed like a reasonable key. Like, it's an awkward 6, but probably better than a 5. It was what both Dave and I were thinking looking at that 6-card hand. And then Eric also kept an awkward 6-card hand. And you had him, right? You had him, the foot pressing gently against his neck. And then the deck just didn't give you anything.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I don't like about... a couple years ago when I played more Vintage, I was actually advocating for Chalice of the Void to be restricted when people were saying that... the stack stacks were too powerful, but nobody wants to restrict Mishra's Workshop. No one wants to restrict Lodestone Golem because I feel like those are more fun or the real core of the deck. I was actually saying that a good choice would be Chalice because it's so luck dependent on who wins the die roll, and it's because hands like that I can reasonably keep 6. I mean, I don't even know if he had any Moxes there or he just kept the.
He did. He kept Library, Mox, and 4 spells as his 6-card hand. So you locked out the Mox, and he said, well, I'm just going to wait till I have 7 for my library.
Right.
And so he just declined to play the library until he could tap it to draw a card. But yeah, he had a Mox in his opener as his 2nd mana source.
Yeah, I mean, I really just needed a Mutavault. A Mutavault would have done a lot better.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, it felt like you both kept awkward 6s, and you were winning if you drew anything. So, I don't know. Felt like your deck hated you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you play a colorless deck. You have no selection.
Right.
I was pretty sure if I tried to metamorph the Divining Top, he would not have let me.
We were talking about that. Dave thought Eric would let you because Dave thought Eric would let you. I thought it was risky, and Eric would have flipped it to the top. So,
I mean, it just seems like I'm giving up so much. Like, it's basically turning the metamorph into a blank, right?
I thought it was but you can flip it back if you succeed. You can flip it on the top later and upgrade it.
If I succeed, it's great. No question. I would have 100% cast it if I thought I would have succeeded.
Yeah, I think if Eric, the fact that you're going to this desperate length of trying to metamorph at top, if I'm Eric, like, clearly if you actually think this is worth doing, no way I'm letting you.
I mean, I guess, yeah, I can. I mean, having a Soul Ring is useful against Back to Basics, I guess, but not the way that game played out. Like,
you had plenty, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that was frustrating. He also drew 3 Force of Wills. I mean, obviously he kept a 2-mana hand, but
right.
So,
yeah, they didn't have all the Force of Wills when it started.
Yeah.
Do you regret not changing decks at this point?
Oh, definitely. I definitely regret not changing decks. But the problem is that I played a lot of Magic last weekend. I played in the PTQ on Saturday. I played a grinder for the World Magic Cup qualifier. Then I played in the World Magic Cup qualifier on Sunday. And when it came to Sunday night, I was like, I got to think about switching decks. But there was just no chance that I was going to really play any Vintage. And I was just like, the decks served me well. I will give them a shot to try to, see. I would have been interested to see if the deck was good enough to sort of play through the hate. And honestly, both the matches were close. Like my match last week could not have been any closer. If I had first of all, if I just play around Lightning Bolt, I mean, playing around Lightning Bolt would maybe lose other stuff, but I could have played around Bolt. If I had 1 extra life or 1 extra mana, I mean, these matches have been very close. So
no, that's a great point. Yeah, last week against Menendian, you were definitely super close. And this week, you were in game 3, and the deck just let you down. So on the one hand, it may feel like you've gotten metagamed against, but you're right. Both your matches were close 3-game matches.
Well, one of the things about this deck, about all workshop decks in general, is that they're difficult to metagame against because the games I get a good draw, I don't care what your spells are.
Yeah. So is the next match ready? Is that what I just heard? Awesome. So how do you feel about the end game against Menendian? Do you think you were supposed to play around Lightning Bolt? I know we exchanged a couple of texts earlier, right after the match.
It's tough. I mean, if he had no cards in his hand,
sure,
playing around Lightning Bolt's clearly wrong because he's got plenty of top decks that make me lose. But the card he's most likely to have been holding the whole game with nothing else to do with is Lightning Bolt. So it's.
Well, we think the game may have started. We'll find it. No worries. So yeah, but you think maybe because he'd been holding a couple of cards the whole time, you should have put him on Lightning Bolt? I felt like there was probably a line to play around Lightning Bolt, but that you would have been opening up losses to other things.
Oh, I definitely, that's exactly right. I could have played around Lightning Bolt, but then I lose to any artifact come off the top, any blocker off the top, because it would have involved me doing much less damage that turn, and he would have... Yeah. Anyway.
All right, well.
This is interesting, because I just have never seen anything like Josh's deck.
I don't think anyone has. And Josh's deck isn't a thing.
And I didn't watch him last week, so...
Well, last week's game, the game 1... So, Josh Utter-Leyton is playing a Pyromancer's Ascension deck in Vintage. Here you've got, last year's Player of the Year basically saying Vintage Super League is an opportunity to brew in a format where he hasn't gotten the chance to brew before. And so, yeah, he took Modern Staple, Pyromancer's Ascension, built the best Vintage deck around it that he could. He's also got Young Pyromancer. So, last week, game 1 was go off with the combo, fizzle, but get so much value that I win anyway. And then game 2 was just the Young Pyromancer came to play.
Yeah, so
LSD quickly won the die roll here, though, and he DTs. Did he DT for Thirst?
Yeah, because he's holding the Blightsteel Colossus. So he got Thirst for Knowledge to dump it. Thirst for Knowledge, so underplayed in general. Why is this deck has Thought Scour in it?
You got to have 4-ups for Pyromancer's Ascension.
Wow, it's just, I guess this is like a weird, I'm going to act like no one has Dredge hate deck, even though I'm not playing Dredge. It's still important to me. That
it does get some splash damage from Dredge hate. That is fair.
Yeah.
All right, Josh goes for the Thought Sour. Luis is going to Thirst his response. Finds a Tezzeret.
Yeah, thirsting away at Blightsteel's really one of the better feelings in Magic.
It feels pretty good. It's still like worse than it's an Ancestral, but for only 2 more mana.
Yeah, but just because the Blightsteel's like a negative card in your hand. So
True. You need to get that back in the deck if you ever want to tinker it out.
Mm-hmm. So
there's the Ascension.
Yeah, I don't know how to. This deck is strange.
Well, it's just bask in its glowing glory, right?
Does he have Yawgmoth in his deck or no?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, okay, there's a black man. Yeah, he does.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, here comes the Ascension. The other crazy 4-of that Josh has in his deck is Pyroblast.
Which, yeah.
Not in his hand, though.
All right, so Luis's hand is not, well, I was about to say his hand wasn't great.
His hand is not good. Oh, wait, never mind. Scratch that. Oh, but the misstep stops the Ancestral. Yeah, so they're in a top deck war at this point, basically, right? I mean, I guess, does the Yawgmoth get much value? There's no land in there, right?
No. He has no,
he doesn't have land past the Ancestral yet. He's sort of like any one land or artifact away from being able to Yawgmoth back the Ancestral.
Yeah.
Hercules. Not the card he wanted to draw. It's going to Toxic Deluge to kill a Pyromancer. Yeah, you do what you got to do. That seems totally correct there. And I think Josh is disappointed to lose his Pyromancer.
Now, this is one of those classic. These are one of the games of Vintage I love. Everyone's decks are totally broken on turn 4. We're all just playing like draft decks. I'm going to Toxic Deluge to kill your 2-1.
Luis's hand does look a little better here.
Well, he's not gonna. He's gonna get greedy and not just go for the Yawgmoth's Will just for the Ancestral.
Huh. He's right. I mean, there's a Force of Will on the other side of the table. No, he does go for the Yawgmoth's Will for basically just the Ancestral. And Josh is sitting, his last card in hand is Force of Will. He's got 5 mana if he cracks his fetch. He does not need the blue card to pitch, does not need to sack his Lotus. He can just hardcast it.
I'm trying to figure out if there's a reason to if you should let Luis cast the Ancestral. I guess it doesn't matter.
No, counter the Ancestral instead of the Yawgmoth's Will.
I'm not sure if there's a reason to do one or the other.
Some future Time Twister removed from game stuff.
Right.
I'm not sure either guy plays a Twister.
Manamorphose. Yeah, I'm out of my element with this deck. I mean, I've played the modern Storm deck many times, but
it just is the modern deck.
I guess it is just a modern Storm deck, right?
Yeah, but I mean with some shenanigans, right? He's got some restricted cards. He's got, a young Pyromancer backup plan, but other than that, it's the modern deck. He needs to stick a Pyromancer's Ascension. I mean, I guess the difference from the modern deck is that he doesn't have to win via Ascension the way the modern deck does.
Right.
I mean, he can win with, this Yawgmoth's Will would be pretty juicy here, right?
Right, and this is just the case where whoever drew the first Haymaker was now going to win, right? Like,
yeah, sacks for black. I don't know if we can pull out his graveyard any and see.
His graveyard is juicy.
Think, right? The Lotus comes back. You get to DT again. He's
got infinite cantrips. He's got a Gataxian Probe, so it's just.
I guess the question is, do you want to get a Pyromancer or an Ascension into play before you start casting other stuff? He's going to be a little pinched on mana, I would think. Basically got 6 to operate with.
Well, I'm sure he's going to, I guess, from this position, I'm assuming Ascension is still better than Pyromancer because...
I'm not so sure, though. Like, you're taking all the goodness out of your graveyard, right? You might if you read Young Pyromancer, you're going to wind up with, like, a full grip of cards and, like, 7 dorks in play.
Right, but if he casts Ascension, he can trigger it immediately by going Thought Scour Preordain, I think. And then and then cast a Probe still. And he would still, because he has the Lotus, he can cast Ascension and have go...
Thought Scour cards get removed from the game because Yawgmoth's Will is in effect. This is all bizarre. I'm not used to trying to think through Ascension line when Yawgmoth's Will is in effect.
Yeah, Ascension's definitely better here just because he can turn it on right now.
He agrees. Ascension, 4 mana to deal with. Yeah, Luis has got nothing.
Luis can't, and Luis isn't really playing. He doesn't have an Abrupt Decay or anything main deck, right? Or a Dangerous Claim. So
he's also got a single blue mana.
But I mean, I'm saying if he just turns on the Ascension and says go, he still probably wins.
Oh, sure.
Unless the Blightsteel makes a really quick. Check out some of these. I haven't looked at these deck lists because I knew I wasn't playing these guys, so I hadn't looked that closely. Luis with the VSU Heretics in the board. He's got real hateful.
He's mental misstepping his own Preordain? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, because that's just to get counters on the Ascension.
Hilarious.
It saves him a mana, essentially.
I did not see that one coming. Deck remains awesome.
Did he misstep his own misstep then? Is that what happened?
I believe so, yeah. Misstep the Preordain, misstep the misstep. He still wants the Preordain to resolve.
Yeah. This game's over.
Should be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Luis does not. For the crowd, Luis. You didn't want to let him go through the motions. And I guess it's a lot of clicks.
Gets a Demonic Tutor twice.
Yeah, he's Demonic Tutor twice. He's got Manamorphose. He's got basically all the cards he can want. And, yeah. Well, cool.
Having the active Ascension is a really good feeling. So, so what's Luis got? Luis has a Red Blast, 2 Notion Thief, a Pyroblast.
I think we got Josh's deck list queued up first, actually. Yeah, let's look at what Josh has. This deck, man, he may win 2. It's fun. The idea of Josh just brewing up this crazy thing, coming quick out of the left field and finally putting up a couple of wins would be awesome. I don't know. Yeah. I'm probably not supposed to be rooting, but I find myself rooting for Josh.
I mean, it's really not that crazy of an idea. I mean, it just doesn't work in a world where all your opponents have 4 Leyline in the void and other stuff, right?
Sure. So do any of these sideboard cards, he just runs his deck back again, right?
He could.
Maybe he needs an answer to Luis's. Does Luis have sideboard cards? Let's go ahead and look at Luis's list.
Yeah, Luis has some Pyros. He's got Notion Thieves. He's got Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, Grafdigger's Cage isn't. Oh, yeah, it does work. It shuts off the Yawgmoth's Will. It doesn't shut off the Ascension, though.
Right.
Maybe the Nihil Spellbomb actually takes stuff out of the graveyard, and there's only one of that.
I can't believe that Luis doesn't have Leyline in the void. It seems very strange to me.
Well, I heard him explain his sideboard. He said he was joking that he's in the worst possible position against Dredge, where he has 4 cards, like not enough to actually beat it, but enough to like use up sideboard space. But he got there because he figured out all the other sideboard cards he wanted, and they added up to 11. So he's like, I have 4 spots for Dredge Hate. And I think the Cage is always the first one because it overlaps as Oath Hate as well.
Right, true. The Leyline is just so good.
Not against Oath.
So I would think that Josh is going to bring in the Pyromancers just to give himself an alternate win condition in case like the graveyard is shut off to him.
That makes sense.
Because he doesn't need the lightning bolts in this matchup, right? Unless does he just?
I mean, he has to kill the Pyromancers. I don't know. Yeah, let's go to the match. Let's see what happens. I doubt either player has a ton of experience with this matchup. I don't know. Maybe they play tested against each other. It seems unlikely.
Well, Luis's deck is pretty straightforward, right? I mean,
it is essentially like the vintage control list with one of everything.
Right. He chose to play Snapcasters over Dark Confidants, and he only has 2 Jace.
Yeah, I mean, he's got sort of maximum one-ofs. He's got like the 1 Toxic Deluge and like basically all the broken cards in a control show.
Right. You know, he's got a Dak Fade, and he's got 2 Lightning Bolts, whereas some decks play less or whatever.
All right. Well, he leads with 2 mana. He leaves up a mana drain bluff instead of playing his mana vault since it doesn't do anything. I guess it is the artifact for Thirst for Knowledge. That's what it is. Josh is going to preordain. What does Josh's hand do? It does not have an Ascension. Neither flavor of Pyromancer. No Pyromancer cards? I don't know. It's the collective of the Young Pyromancer and the Pyromancer's Ascension. It's not the Young Pyromancer's Ascension, right? It's some other Pyromancer's Ascension.
Oh yeah, I don't think Young Pyromancer has that kind of thing going for him.
Not yet. Give him some time. He's still young.
Totally sad about Young Pyromancer leaving Standard, by the way.
Sure. Standard looks fun, though. It'll be nice to brew a fresh environment.
It does look fun. I mean, it really depends on how often there's just a build-up of too many permanents in play. Like, it's a lot of Courser Crucixes.
Yeah, we'll see. Icons has so much going on. I mostly think of it from Limited right now. I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I basically am not going to play Constructed Tournament until after the Pro Tour, so I haven't put that much thought into it. So,
got it.
Not that I'm playing. Didn't mean to imply I'm playing in the Pro Tour. Just until after I watch the Pro Tour happen.
Yeah, I have to sound like I know what I'm talking about at the Pro Tour, though, so I have to think about it.
You are going to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So what's going on in this game here?
Well, Josh preordained into a Demonic Tutor, uses it to access an Ascension. Now he needs to resolve it. Luis has a Thirst for Knowledge, discarding that Mana Vault from his opening draw. I mean, both players are sort of solo building up their hand.
Yeah, they just have a lot going on. It's hard for me to figure out if anyone... I mean, obviously...
Speaking of sweet one-ofs, Luis has a Factor Fiction.
That's a sweet one-of.
It's not restricted. He could play more. Josh does not want to let him have a top.
Yeah, this I guess he's been able to resolve Factor Fiction here. Josh doesn't have one of his many Pyroblasts, so let's see his Force of Will, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Guess he just goes main phase factor fiction after essentially baiting a counter with a top. What's the split?
Wow.
Tinker's the best card, right? But they're all kind of relevant.
Well, I guess John.
Yeah, Misstep Mox versus Tinker and 2 lands.
Luis already has an artifact in play.
Yeah, he does have a Pearl, so the Tinker is definitely alive. But I mean, what else are you going to put with the Tinker?
That was a really quick split, right? Oh, he's still thinking, right? Still, it was pretty quick.
I mean, you could go land Misstep Jet versus Tinker and a land. Luis
so didn't go for the Tinker.
Huh. Wow. Josh doesn't have that many answers to tinkering out of Colossus, does he?
Yeah, but when Tinker goes to the pile with more cards, it's a little worrisome, I guess, right? I know that they were just lands, but...
Did Josh second level outthink him?
Yeah. I mean, I would have got Force of Will next turn.
Sure. Yeah, I guess the Force of Will is the thing Luis is worried about. All right. While Luis is tapped out for Factor Fiction, Josh sticks a Pyromancer's Ascension.
This looks bad for Luis. This Ascension is...
That is a second Manamorphose, right? So trigger the Ascension, 2 mana, draw a card. That Preordain is, I guess he's got red-green. No, he's got blue mana, of course. So he does get the second counter onto the Ascension. Luis is going to throw a Misstep in. Just wants to try to break Josh up. Which Josh got left? A Brainstorm? Which, yeah. How about 2 Brainstorms?
Oh, jeez.
Blue card for the Force of Will. How many of these can you keep? Oh, right. So the first Brainstorm resolves, he puts 2 back. Then the next Brainstorm resolves. Now he really has to put 2 back. He's got a Force of Will for his blue card. Seems like you keep Pyroblast Force of Will blue card?
Yeah, with Luis sitting on Snap, Bolt.
He does not. Oh, I guess he already played a land this turn. So he can't leave up the Pyroblast. He put the land back. I feel like he must have played a land.
Well, there's a way to win. Time Vault.
There's half a way to win, I think.
Well, no, but he has Tinker in his graveyard.
So he can Snapcaster Tinker? Good God. Snapcaster Tinker takes 5 mana, though. He can Snapcaster Tinker now, but he can't do that and play a Time Vault. So he's going to play the Time Vault, setting himself up to Snapcaster Tinker next turn.
Which it's not going to resolve, unfortunately.
I mean, he gets to try it twice. Well, I assume Josh will let the Snapcaster resolve, counter the Tinker, and let it get removed from the game.
I want to see if Josh can manage a good situation here where he Pyroblasts and uses both copies.
Right. All right. Well, let's get the Pyromancer down, says Josh. He's not going to go fishing with Thought Scours. He's going to leave up Pyroblast Force of Will blue card, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe end step Thought Scour.
What?
Bolt?
I
can't Pyroblast that.
I would think you Thought Scour here, right?
Yeah, I think so. You certainly Thought Scour once, and then take stock.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
guy, Ascension triggers, Thought Scour's LSV, really? 1 each? Weird.
A little bit of a hedge.
All right. Looks like he drew a replacement Pyromancer and a land. Maybe Josh is worried about milling. Does he have cards he can't afford to mill? Is milling your Yawgmoth's Will would be really depressing? Not quite sure what the thinking is there.
So I guess, yeah, it's hard. Man, Luis is in such a bad spot. He can't really... I might have gone for it there because it seems so hard to win the long game.
Right. I hear you. I might have to.
But also, extremely difficult to win the short game.
Well, but this way, with 2 Snapcasters, though, he can end step Snapcaster targeting Force of Will, or sorry, Factor Fiction.
Factor Fiction, right.
That's fight Josh's end step, then untap and go for the win. Yeah, I like Luis's line here. I think that's exactly what he's doing.
It's true. The fact that he can Factor Fiction makes a big difference.
All right. Well, Josh plays.
Well, he did have enough mana to Snapcaster Tinker, Snapcaster Mental Misstep.
Yeah, you're worried about Force of Will, though. All right. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a young Pyromancer. Thought Scours are spitting off tokens and cards left and right.
Well, Josh finally bricked a little. Drew lands.
He's still got a Manamorphose if he wanted to keep going. Yeah, he's just going to attack with the token from before. And no blue card to go with that Force of Will, huh?
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he just played the Thought Scour there. And now, yeah, here's Luis going for Snapcaster on Josh's end step. How does Josh play this? No blue card for Force of Will.
He's got to cast... If he Red Blasts, he has to cast Manamorphose to do it, right? Just to get the extra cards?
I would.
Yeah, you have to. I don't...
Right. He doesn't really care about the Snapcaster itself, so he's going to let Snapcaster resolve. I assume it's going to target Factor Fiction.
Yes. Or that Factor Fiction's got to be better than Thirst for Knowledge.
Yeah. Now Luis is going to tap the 4 mana to flashback to Factor Fiction. So Josh can Manamorphose, then Pyroblast. That seemed like the right line here. Yeah. He really needs a blue card, or Luis is going to untap and kill him.
Wow, and he could have just kept blue cards.
He cast the Thought Scour to try to go off, essentially. Pyroblast.
That's not going to do it.
Not a blue card. Oh, there it is. Wow. Gitaxian Probe.
But Luis still has a draw phase, though.
Yes. Still, I mean, it was over. If that was not a blue card, Luis had it. Yeah, his line of, wait for your end step, pick a fight. That's how you're supposed to play against the guy who's got Force of Wills, right? Pick a fight in their end step, untap, then drop your real Haymaker.
Yeah, definitely rooting for Luis here. Come on. Oh, Greatstorm!
What is it? What is it?
Oh!
3 lands. All right, well, you go for it, right? Snapcaster, Josh presumably will let that resolve, and then Force of Will this Tinker.
Ah, man. Force of Will the Tinker here is brutal.
Yeah. So close. Luis damn near won this game and forced a game 3, but Josh Utter-Leyton is up a game. So, yeah, here's the Force of Will.
Wow.
Probe was the last card he drew. He was.
And now Luis is now dead in like 2 turns, too.
Yeah, Luis gets, but he gets to reshuffle, I guess. He brainstorms 2 lands to the top, but he does have a fetch land.
Yeah, he didn't play a land, right?
Yeah, no, there's the fetch land. So it's going to take Josh a couple turns to win from here.
He's holding Pyro, though, so if he can draw, he can counter a lot of Luis's chances to draw out of this.
Just crunch with the tokens, right? Let Luis trade with Snapcasters if he wants to.
Yeah. You can't burn a Pyro to get rid of a blocker. He doesn't really change your clock. Although you could Pyro, it would kill both Snapcasters.
You do get the extra copies with the Pyroblast, it's true.
That actually would have turned it into a 2-turn clock, so maybe it was worth it.
It even spits off more tokens.
Right, it would have killed both Snapcasters, attack for 7, and then you attack.
Is it a 2-turn clock anyway if he does it here, or no?
No,
not quite.
So maybe it would have been correct, actually.
Crazy. I can't imagine that's right. I mean, I guess Luis has literal 0 cards in hand, so maybe. It was an actual 0 cards in hand.
It would have been exactly 16, right? He would have attacked for 7, got 2 tokens, then attacked for 9 the next turn.
Sure. Wow. Did Luis just drop back Doghouse Will?
So now he...
This is the draw phase that Luis would not have had if Josh had cleared 2 blockers with the Pyroblast.
Yep.
What does this graveyard do? Like, he's already removed the Tinker, so it's not lethal.
She's got to try to find. She's got to find Tezzeret.
Yeah, Tezzeret can untap that Mana Vault just as easily.
He's got a mental misstep, so
that's not good enough. I mean, there's multiple Pyroblasts.
2 Pyroblasts. That's true. And he's got. Yeah, you're right. He has 2 Pyroblasts.
He's baiting. Would you like to counter my brainstorm? Do you really think Josh should have Pyroblasted to clear 2 Snapcasters?
Yeah, I think so.
Luis is empty-handed, shuffling after a brainstorm.
Like, I have the math, right? He had 5 tokens and a Snapcaster.
He had 5.
A Pyromancer. And he been
5.
So I think that's... Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It seems like it. I mean, that makes Luis have to draw... I mean, you see that Pyroblast actually wasn't even that good against Luis's best card to draw, which was Yawgmoth's Will. Like, with the Tinker already out of the game, like... Yeah, you stop Brainstorm, and obviously have to look at the deck list, but it makes it...
All right, well, Luis continues to... He's resolved this Yawgmoth's Will on a turn that maybe he shouldn't have had. Lightning Bolt clears a Pyromancer. Luis keeps going. Luis now has Force of Will and a Notion Thief.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those plays where I guess we would have to, we could just run the numbers on how many outs Luis had and so forth.
Right. You're giving him an extra draw phase, but keeping a way to counter all the blue cards. It's tough. Soul Ring comes back. Mana Vault comes back. Now it's Thirst for Knowledge time. Josh, once again, has to decide whether he wants to Pyroblast it or not.
Right. And now he still doesn't kill. Now it's still not lethal if he kills the Snapcaster.
All true. And no, holds on to the Pyroblast.
Time Walk. Holy...
Can he cast it? He can. There's 2 lands under that Thirst that aren't there. 2 Notion Thieves, a Force of Will. Wow, he put back the Force of Will. Or no, he exiled the Force of Will, right? Yeah, he exiled the Force of Will. Jeez. So Yawgmoth's Will is a pretty good card.
Yawgmoth's Will is a hell of a card. I mean, that is really old school vintage.
Yeah, Luis's deck is like everything that used to be just awesome and broken about vintage. He's just like, I'll play all of it.
Yeah, this is the classic vintage control deck. I mean, when I play this deck, I've played Dark Confidants instead of Snapcasters, but...
Yeah. I like a 6. That might be wrong.
Well, yeah, this is amazing. So he kept the Pyroblast to protect against top decks and then lost to a top deck.
Yep.
But it's possible he didn't even see that other play because it's such a weird play.
It is a very weird play. Pyroblast can destroy blue permanents. Ascension gives you an extra copy. You can destroy both the Snapcasters. And it just happens that the math is 7 + 9 for Xaxes.
Right. It's just...
Wait, does it only make 1 token?
Oh, that's right. It only makes 1 token. So
so we're just wrong.
Right.
It only makes 1 token. So it would have been 7 + 8, which is not Xaxes, which would have left Luis with 1 point of life left. Luis was getting this draw phase. Whether
1 point doesn't matter though, given the cards he's playing. But yeah, we're wrong. It doesn't make a token.
He cracked a fetch land, but he didn't have to.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking. We were both thinking he got 2 tokens from the 2 Pyroblasts, but he only gets the 1.
Didn't he have to crack the fetch land to not draw the lands off the Brainstorm?
Sure, but I mean the fact that it's not lethal, there's no way Josh's play is wrong now. Like if he would have killed him and denied him a draw phase, I'm all in on this line. I'm on board with your line.
Oh right.
If it doesn't even kill him, then I don't like it.
It doesn't kill him, it's 100% you don't do it. I agree. But I now don't remember whether the fetch land that he had to crack because of the Brainstorm put him to 15 or 16, but it doesn't matter. This is very impressive.
Yeah. All right, Josh finally pulled the trigger on his Pyroblast. But that's so much value for Luis.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of value.
Oh, wow. And now he's going to Notion Thief him. Watch this. Manamorphose, 2 Ascensions.
This is... Yeah, Yawgmoth's Will is
second Manamorphose. Wait. Luis has a response. I would like to draw cards. No cards for you. Cards for me. Wow. Notion Thief has done some work in this league so far.
Yeah, Notion Thief is pretty awesome in Vintage. And I was watching the that Star City Open where the first time someone got their Jace Notion Thief on camera and like the judge in the background, like, there was like a physical reaction that was a shockwave from the table, and it is something when you get Notion Thief. Yeah, and Josh is just holding blanks here, things that don't fork with Pyromancer's Ascension.
Yeah, and I mean he can't go off and draw cards anymore.
But
he's got to win this game with Dorks, but
I mean he's still on pace to win with Dorks. Snapcaster's just gonna have to carry. But I mean the Sensei Divining Top is
he's playing against the top. He's playing against an opponent that just stole 2 cards from him.
Yeah,
with a Notion Thief. It's hard to imagine that those 4 1/1s are actually going to get there. Although technically they could. Yeah, Luis is not interested in taking a bunch of damage. He trades off the 2 Snapcasters, keeps the Notion Thief. That seems like the right line.
I mean, this is the game. This kind of game is to see why so many Vintage decks like have the random spell bombs, just because to have Yawgmoth.
Luis is going to untap Mana Vault. Not doing any of your work for you, Josh. Misdirection he draws. And he tops. I think I saw a Red Blast floating around the top of his library.
Yeah. Did not like what he saw.
Yeah, all right. Reshuffles. Nihil, Spellbomb, and Fire Ice are the 3 cards.
Well, Fire Ice certainly gets him out of trouble, but he's really got a he's racing the Ascension just as much as he's racing the tokens here. So, but because Josh obviously has a lot of ways in his deck to kill Notion Thief, but he's got 4 main deck Pyroblasts, so just those.
All right, Nihil, Spellbomb, wipe out your yard.
Right.
All of that stuff is. Now what's the top? Still a Pyroblast? Still a Fire Ice? Didn't see the 3rd card.
So we're gonna all right. So we're gonna enter Notion Thief beatdown mode here.
Fire! That just happened. That's awesome.
I love Fire Ice in Vintage. I've always loved, yeah.
Notion Thief beatdown. Oh, there's the Pyroblast, but Luis has got plenty of options for countering it at this point. He can even misdirect it, right? Since Pyroblast destroying a permanent if it's blue, that's why you play Pyroblast instead of Red Elemental Blast. You can misdirect a Pyroblast. You cannot misdirect a Red Elemental Blast.
Yeah, what?
Does he counter both copies?
Man, it's hard to use the misdirection.
Oh, he has to pitch a card to do it. So yeah, it's not like pitching a card. If he'd had a bunch of mana untapped, I think it would have been pretty tempting to defend.
I mean, he's just trying to find Tezzeret and protect it here. So,
right, Tezzeret is lethal if Luis can find it because he can just untap the Time Vault and he can take all the rest of the turns. Crazy game. And somehow we're back in a top deck war?
He can also cast Blightsteel if he draws it, maybe. Might have to untap his Mana Vault first.
Well, he's going to untap his Mana Vault no matter what. He's at 5.
Right, so next turn, Blightsteel becomes like a 1-turn clock also. Actually, you can just cast it now, right? Yeah.
Pyroblast, a Force of Will, and an artifact of some kind on top at the top. Wow. But I mean, the Pyromancer's Ascension, Josh can actually slog through all those counters in theory. He has to draw something, though.
Yeah, and it makes all...
Oh, it's Blightsteel. Is he going to hardcast Blightsteel? Is that really where this game is going?
I would imagine.
2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's got 13 even without the Mana Vault.
Yeah, he's got a lot of mana.
Now I'm finding I want to see another game of this. Now I'm rooting for Luis because I just want game 3.
Oh, I mean, it's funny how you kind of want to root for Josh because his deck is interesting, but watching Pyromancer's Ascension play out is not that interesting. So once the game gets going, Luis becomes the underdog.
Oh, okay. I'll buy that. There's Blightsteel Colossus. Yeah, all right, no problem.
My 8-year-old's a big fan of Blightsteel Colossus.
Yeah, bad. It's big. Have you seen it?
Yeah. It
does everything. All right, Josh deciding whether to pay life or blue mana for a Gitaxian Probe. Goes for life. Needs to draw some gas with these 2 draw phases. Luis not going to pitch. Or is he? He could misstep one of these. Probably should, right? Yeah, misstep one of them. Because then he can force whatever the other one draws into. Well, force half. Oh, wow. He forces one. He correctly puts Josh on top decking a Gitaxian Probe and being desperate. So he missteps one copy, force of wills the other, ices the game with the Blightsteel. Wow, Luis played that game great. Yeah. I'm not sure Josh did anything wrong, but I mean, every angle, it just felt like Luis was a step ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, Luis basically played in a way such that he played to beat Pyroblast with his Yawgmoth spell. Like, he never got himself in a situation where he was, like, tapping out for a blue spell that if it didn't resolve, he wasn't going to, at some point it became easy, but I think he knew that the whole time. He knew that he had to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, and even the way he went for the Tinker, like he almost won that game with that Tinker about 10 minutes ago, remember?
Oh, yeah.
He goes for the end-step Snapcaster. Josh is just desperately digging for a blue card. Does find it, so he's able to fend off the second Snapcaster. He doesn't lose on the spot, but then loses to the top deck Yawgmoth Will.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing exactly how Josh expects his deck to play out, I'm a little surprised he gave up the blue card in his hand. I mean, obviously he's really likely to draw one.
Sure.
But he was holding a Metamorphose, so it just seems like...
He like halfway went for it, right?
Yeah, why not just...
Either you do the Thought Scour and the Metamorphose, or you do neither, or maybe even lead with the Metamorphose. I don't know. None of us have experience with vintage Ascension lists.
Like when we say he was trying to go off, I would have to go back and watch it. It seems weird that he gave up the blue card in his hand.
Sure. All right, well, let's see what happens in game 3.
So I wonder if Josh has the lightning bolts in now. Not that he didn't know the Notion Thieves were coming in. So just the Lotus, huh?
Luis keeps drawing the Blightsteel.
They both have just Lotus, no other mana.
Wow,
that's sick. The double just the Lotus draw, and they both could keep it.
Luis can't keep.
He's got Voltaic Key top.
Really?
It's pretty thin. Do they both keep? They both kept?
Wow, they both kept. Josh at least has a Gitaxian Probe, too. They
awesome. Both kept just Lotus. That is incredible. I have never, ever, and I probably have seen it, but man, I don't remember seeing it.
I mean, I've kept just Lotus.
Oh, yeah, but for both players to keep just Lotus?
Right. Well, you don't know when it happens, right? You never can see the hand tail.
That is pretty
So preordained. Josh had a preordained. That makes his keep a lot better. I didn't see the preordained the first
time. Oh, yeah. Josh was going to turn that Lotus into like...
Yeah, Josh's keep is totally fine. Luis is going to force a will the Pyromancer. That makes sense. Josh is down. Wow, the second one is going to resolve. Oh, no, he doesn't have a second red mana. He's down to just a blue floating.
By the way, I'm not 100% certain that in the world of everyone playing a lot of mental missteps, you can always just keep that like Lotus cantrip hand. But
granted, I don't think if you're playing Josh's deck, I don't think you mulligan it. It's turn 1 Pyromancer. Like, sure, fine. Your misstep gets, Your preordained.
No. It wasn't turn 1 Pyromancer. He had to draw the ruby for it to be turn 1.
You're right. All right, fine.
So that was Black Lotus into 3 cantrips, is what it was.
He's still got a blue floating.
Right? And he didn't even Gataxium probe before. That's another strange thing, right?
Well, he wanted to probe after the Pyromancer resolved.
Right.
He was hoping he could draw a land here, or like a red source, so that he could play the Pyromancer and then fire off the probes.
Right.
All right, Luis. Top deck.
Luis loses the mental misstep even worse than... But he's going to have to force a will to mental misstep here.
Does Josh force top? He's got to. Yeah. And yes, Luis has to force a will, the mental misstep. Because without that top, he doesn't get the chance to dig for land.
Right. And he can do the key top thing here.
Yeah. He's got enough mana for it? Yeah, he does. Wait, no.
He's not going to look with top. He's just going to draw. Oh, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do.
All right, well, he plays the key.
He has just Blightsteel in his hand.
Deluge, Polluted Delta, and Nihil Spellbomb on top.
All right. Wow. These guys have absolutely nothing. This is... this is just weird.
There's no blue mana for Josh. He's still got a Thought Scour and a Preordain.
He's still got more mana than Luis. Oh, wait. We
knew the Delta was coming.
All right.
He's got more cards than Luis.
Yeah, but now Luis can start drawing 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, so activate top. As a response, use Voltaic Key to untap top. Then you can tap to activate the top a second time. They're both going to resolve, drawing Luis a card, even though there's only 1 top to flip back to the top. So you essentially turn a 1-card profit with that play. And by the way, his reshuffle meant there was a Scalding Tarn.
Oh, that game's slipping away
from Josh. Yeah, he needs to draw land immediately. I think he's still got a turn. His Demonic Tutor, there's no untap here. Or does Luis just gets an Ancestral? Or has he got something more exciting? Wow. Oh, he's got the key, of course.
He's got key in play.
He's 1 mana away. Well, there's the land from Josh, but that's probably not good enough, right?
There's no counterspell. He has to cantrip. He has to preordain. Well, Luis still needs a land to be able to time vault and untap, but yeah, I don't know. I don't. Once again, I feel like I don't know Josh's deck well enough to know if he was really supposed to keep that hand. I mean, he didn't have an Ascension, right?
I mean, Lotus into 3 cantrips in a deck that kind of wants to fill up the graveyard seems reasonable.
Right, but it's still...
Honestly, Luis's keep looks sketchier to me. He's just all in on divining top Voltaic Key, but it's going to work.
I also think Luis is...
And there's the land. Ball game.
I think Luis is... Yeah, it's very risky.
He plays the time vault. He slow rolls the land so that Josh doesn't know it's a must counter. But yeah, Luis untapping time vault with Voltaic Key. He will take all the rest of the turns. Josh will see it momentarily and concede the match. Yeah. Wow, Luis Scott-Vargas, ladies and gentlemen.
Just think how likely Josh thought he was to win this match. Like, Luis had brainstormed and with no cards in his hand and shuffled with a fetch land, right? Like,
yeah, cast a brainstorm, saw land, kept the fetch land, said go, facing basically a 3-turn clock.
That was...
Wow.
That was a big comeback. I mean, that's really going from, like, 90, I don't know how many outs he had there. I mean, you almost know might have been the only out. Because Demonic...
I mean, the Tinker's already gone. Wow.
I don't think he had the mana. I don't know if Demonic Tutor was an out or not. Anything blue wasn't an out. So
right, the Pyroblast. Crazy game. Awesome game of Magic, though. And then that last game, they both kept just Lotus. I thought Luis's keep was sketchier than Josh's, personally.
Well, I mean, Josh's, it's like... It seems like cool to like cast 3 cantrips with the Lotus, but what does his hand look like at the end of that? Isn't it just kind of look like a 6-card hand with 1 land in it when he's done?
Luis's hand was just a Blightsteel.
I'm not defending Luis's hand. Luis kept a 6 a 6-card hand, basically, that's worse than a regular 6-card hand because you'd rather have the bite still in your deck.
Well, I want to talk to Luis about this hand, so I'm going to kick you out. Thanks for hanging out with us. That was a fun match.
Yeah, no problem.
We will be right back momentarily, and we'll talk to Luis about the way that game went. Luis will be with us for the Shaman Indian Showdown. Stay tuned.